So after reading Superman Birthright, I came into All-Star Superman with some pretty high expectations. I mean, with the amount of hype I have heard about this comic being the holy grail of Superman comics and one of the best comics ever written, I mean, it's safe to say my expectations were pretty high. And if Superman Birthright showed me why the character is relatable, All-Star Superman showed me why the character is loved. I was not disappointed. So one of the things that really stood out to me in All-Star Superman is how differently Superman is presented than what I expected coming out of Birthright, because he's not this big, booming, intimidating figure. He's not loud or aggressive or even all that flashy most of the time. He's just gentle. There's a softness to him in the story, and the way he speaks, the way he moves, and even just the way he exists in a room. Like, you don't get the feeling he's trying to impress anybody. He's not flexing, and not that Superman's ever really done that, but he's just present, calm, kind, and in control. And that honestly made him feel more powerful than any display of strength ever could. Like, you know that feeling you get when someone truly listens to you, or like when someone shows up exactly when you need them to? Like, that's how this Superman feels. Like, if he walked into your life, you wouldn't feel fear. You would just feel safe, like your best friend just showed up. And you know, there's a scene that really early on that really hit me and showcases this. Superman is in the middle of a conversation with Lois, and they're in this alleyway talking about how they're incompatible and can't have children together. And right in the middle of this conversation, he's hearing all these different conversations in his ear, and there's one that stops him dead in his tracks, and he tells Lois, "Listen, I gotta go, somebody needs me." And so you get to the next page, and immediately you see this girl who's standing on the ledge of a rooftop, ready to jump. And what makes this moment so powerful isn't just that he saves her, it's how he does it. Because he doesn't swoop in like a superhero. He doesn't make a dramatic entrance or anything like that. He just shows up right behind her, puts his hand on her shoulder, and says, "Reagan, your doctor really was running late, you know, and you're stronger than you think you are." And that's all she needed. And you can see it in her face that, like, somebody like him believed in her was enough to bring her back. And the fact that he left Lois, not rudely, but like, you know, not dismissively, but because he had to, says everything. Because when someone's in pain, Superman doesn't put it off. Like, he doesn't finish the conversation first, he just goes. And that moment just absolutely floored me, because it wasn't about saving the world or lifting a building. It was about saving one person with kindness. And that's the Superman I'm starting to understand. Not the one who always wins because he's the strongest, but the one who always shows up because he's the kindest. So Lois Lane in All-Star Superman is one of the most interesting portrayals I've seen of her so far, and even though this version feels familiar, there's something a little edgier, a little more paranoid about how she's written. And from the very beginning, you can tell she's not someone who just goes along with whatever Superman says, even when he opens up to her in a massive way. Like, when Superman reveals to Lois that he's Clark Kent, it should be this big emotional turning point, and in a way it is, but what makes it so great is her reaction, because she doesn't just melt, she doesn't fall into his arms. Instead, she's instantly on edge, defensive, even kind of panicked. And it's not because she doesn't care, it's because she does. This revelation shakes her foundation. Instead of getting swept up in the romance of it, she goes in just the full-blown investigative reporter mode. Like, you see this even more when she's in the Fortress of Solitude with him. She's surrounded by all these artifacts, alien wonders, and impossible technology, and yet she's skeptical the entire time. She questions everything. She doesn't trust what she's seeing, and she even starts wondering if Superman is testing her or manipulating her. It's hilarious, and I love that about her in this story, because so often Lois is portrayed as the heart, the emotional center, but here she's also the brain. She's constantly assessing the situation, reading Superman, keeping her guard up, and you know, she's not naive. She doesn't just accept being brought into this world of gods and machines. She keeps her footing even when everything around her seems impossible, and that's what makes her role in All-Star Superman so compelling to me, because she's not just a passive character. She's not just along for the ride. She's her own force in the story, full of instinct, full of doubt, and always trying to make sense of the man behind the myth while keeping him grounded at the same time. So let's talk about Lex Luthor now, because this version of Lex felt really familiar to me and very much in line with how I've seen him in things like, you know, the animated series and other media. Like, he's arrogant, cold, laser focused on his own greatness, and completely obsessed with proving he's the one that should be leading humanity and not Superman. But the way that All-Star Superman presents it is, it really elevates him, because this is a Lex at the peak of his obsession. His entire identity just revolves around this idea that he could have saved the world, should have saved the world really, if only Superman wasn't standing in his way. And to Lex, Superman is the ultimate obstacle, the alien who dropped out of the sky with godlike powers and completely stole the spotlight from him. Lex sees himself as Earth's rightful savior, and Superman is pretty much the cheat code that invalidates all of his hard work. And what makes this story so fascinating, though, is that they put Lex and Superman in a parallel, because both men are put on borrowed time, and Superman is dying from solar radiation, and Lex has finally been captured and sentenced to death by the electric chair. And that parallel brings everything between them into sharp focus. Like, Lex is hellbent on making his last days count, not by healing, not by helping, but by proving that he was right all along, that he could have done it better, and that the world didn't need Superman, they needed him. But here's the thing, Lex is pretty much Superman without restraint, without empathy, without the moral compass that makes all that power meaningful. And that's what makes the contrast so striking in this book, is Superman spends his final days lifting others up, while Lex spends his final days trying to prove he was never beneath anyone to begin with. And there is a brilliant moment, one of my favorites in the entire story, where Superman visits Lex in his cell before his execution. He's not there to gloat, he's not there for revenge, he's there to offer Lex one last chance. And he says, "You always said you could have saved the world if I wasn't around. Well, now I'm dying, so here's your chance." It's completely raw, it's sincere, and it really says everything about the both of them. Superman still sees the good in Lex and still believes he's capable of more, and Lex, for once, he has nothing to hide behind, really. And then he sees it. For just a moment, Lex understands. He experiences Superman's perception, the beauty of the world, and the fragile brilliance of human life, and it completely breaks him. And he says, "If I had more time, I could have changed everything." But in the comic, that's where it ends. No follow through, just regret. Which brings me to the animated version real quick, because one of the few things that I actually liked better in the movie is what they did with that final moment. Because in the adaptation, Lex doesn't just feel remorse, he acts on it. He gives Dr. Quintum everything needed to recreate Superman. And he helps continue the legacy of the very man he spent his life trying to destroy. It's very subtle, it's quiet, but it gives Lex something the comic really didn't, in my opinion, which was redemption, even if it's small. And honestly, I really liked that, because I think it gave his arc more weight and more closure. But I mean, overall, I still really enjoyed the way they handled Lex in the comic. He's layered, tragic, powerful, and at times even sympathetic, and I think both outcomes work in their own ways. Like, one ends in reflection and the other in action, and together they paint a complete picture of who Lex Luthor really is and who he could have been. So one of the best moments in this story is when Superman gives Lois a temporary super serum for 24 hours with his powers. And while it might sound like a typical gift or even a romantic gesture at first, it's so much more than that, because this is Superman giving her something he's never been able to give her before. It's a moment to stand beside him rather than behind him. And you really feel that in every panel, because Lois soars through the sky with joy, full of curiosity and excitement, testing her strength and laughing beside him. And, while she's living in that moment, Superman kind of just lingers behind her and just soaking it all in and just being happy for her, because he knows his time is running out, and he knows this might be the last time they can truly spend together. And instead of trying to make it dramatic or sentimental, he just lets her have this moment and lets her feel like what it's like to be him, not just with power, but the weight, the responsibility. This, it's not about him showing off, or this is Superman opening up his entire world to her in the most complete way he ever has. And there's still room for humor in this too as well, because there's this little hilarious subplot where Atlas and Samson show up trying to win Lois's affection, and it's so over the top and competitive, like it's hilarious. And it ends with an arm wrestling match with Superman, and he completely levels them without breaking a sweat. It's hilarious, but it shows that Superman doesn't need to puff his chest out to prove anything. But at its core, this issue isn't some cliche, let's get married before I die kind of thing. It's not about rushing toward a future they know they don't have. It's about just one perfect day and a perfect memory so powerful that they can carry it with them forever, no matter what comes next. And then there is the page that says it all, where they share a kiss on the moon with the earth rising behind them. No words, no narration, just the two of them suspended in space holding each other. It's not just romance, it's a full circle moment for the two of them. After everything they've endured together, the secrets, the distance, the risks, and the weight of Superman's life, this is their chance to finally connect without anything in the way. It's just them, just this day, and a memory that will last forever. So one of the moments that hit me the hardest in All-Star Superman comes in issue number 6, titled Funeral in Smallville. It starts off like a flashback. We're back on the Kent farm with the younger Clark doing chores, surrounded by the quiet simplicity of Smallville. But things feel a little strange immediately. 4 mysterious strangers show up, and one of them is fully wrapped in bandages. And Pa Kent, being the good man he is, actually hires them on as extra farm hands, which kind of made me laugh. And there's something just clearly unusual about the whole situation, but no one really questions it. And eventually they reveal themselves to Clark that they're Supermen from the future, visitors from another time here on a mission. And then as chaos breaks out, a strange creature begins attacking Smallville. The future Supermen charge in the fight, and just as Clark is about to join them, one of them actually ends up stopping him. And in that exact moment, the bandaged man quietly flies off in another direction. You can see in the background, very subtle. And now, at the time, I didn't really think too much of it, but the pacing picks up and the fight continues, but then the next page just completely flips everything. The bandaged man is now talking to Pa Kent alone away from the battle, and it's such a quiet scene, but something feels important about it. And it felt very out of place to me at first. And then the reveal happens. We find out that the bandaged man is actually our Superman. Not the visitors from, the future, our Superman, the one who's dying right now. He's come back in time in disguise to say goodbye to his father. And when I realized that, I immediately turned back a few pages because I had to go back and reread that moment where the bandaged man split off. And once I saw it again, the way he quietly peeled away from the others, it just absolutely clicked and it all made sense. That wasn't just some random future Superman, that was him. That was Clark taking a moment that he never got to have. And it absolutely broke me, because this issue isn't about a monster attacking Smallville. It's about Clark finally doing something he's carried with him his entire life, saying goodbye to Pa Kent. There's no, time travel hijinks or anything like that. Just a simple act of closure told in the most subtle and respectable way possible. And that's what makes this moment so beautiful. Even with all of his powers, Superman couldn't save his father. But what he could do, what he chose to do, was go back to that day. Not to change it, but just to be there with him. It's so raw and emotional. It's one of the most human moments I've ever read in anything. It's crazy. That's when I knew this story was something special, though, because underneath the big ideas and the mythic scale, All-Star Superman is about holding on to the people you love, even when time is running out. So the last issue I want to talk about very briefly is issue number 5, The Gospel According to Lex Luthor. I had so much fun reading this issue, and it was a very nice break from all the emotional turmoil that the rest of the issues before had kind of brought, and it's really like that because of Clark Kent. This is really an issue where you get to see how much effort Superman puts into the persona of Clark Kent. You really get the feeling that you are actually reading and watching a completely different character. It's so funny. I mean, even the way he's drawn, he's slouched over. He's just a big giant oaf. His glasses are slouching. It's just so funny, man. And they do such a good job selling it. And the funny thing is that every time, I'd say 90% of the time, if not every time, he is stumbling or being a clumsy oaf, it's actually because he's saving somebody. He literally does it within the first 3 panels of this issue when he meets Lex to interview him. And he trips over this wire. And when he trips over this cord, he's actually saving Lex from being electrocuted. It's so funny. Lex obviously is looking at him how do you even put your pants on in the morning, dude? It's I loved it. And the thing that really sold me was at the end, when it's towards the end and Clark and Lex are, getting away from all the prison riot stuff, and Lex turns to Clark and just tells him, "I like you, Kent. You are everything that Superman isn't." And it's the most ironic thing ever. He's literally talking to the dude he has spent his entire life trying to kill. And he just told him that he likes him. I mean, that is gold. I loved this issue. So as somebody new to Superman comics, this story was everything I wanted it to be and more. This isn't a story where Superman dies in some giant explosion or anything like that, or goes out in a blaze of glory, but instead he sacrifices himself in the most Superman way possible by fixing the frickin' sun. I mean, it's absolutely poetic, it's quiet, and it's incredibly powerful. We don't get a funeral or anything like that, we don't see the world mourning, but what we get instead is Lois. And she says something that absolutely floored me. He's not dead. He's up there fixing the sun. And when he's done, he'll be back. And I'll be here waiting for him. That moment really lands like a gut punch. But not in a hopeless way. In a way that reminds you exactly who Superman is. Even in death, he's still giving, still showing up, still trying to save us. And the people who love him, they believe in him enough to wait. This story really helped me finally understand why Superman matters. Not because he's the strongest hero out there, but because he's the kindest. He's gentle, he's hopeful, he shows people the best of what they can be, and then quietly, without needing any recognition, he keeps going. If you are new to Superman like I was, I really can't recommend this story enough. It's incredible. It's not just a superhero story. It's a story about life, loss, legacy, and the quiet, unwavering strength of doing the right thing, even when nobody's watching. And more important than anything, it's about loving the people closest to you, caring for them, showing up for them right up until the very end. So guys, I hope you enjoyed my review of All-Star Superman from a newcomer's perspective, and if you did, please be sure to hit that like and subscribe button along with the notification bell to stay updated on when new content like this drops, and leave me some comic book recommendations in the comments below. I'd love to read any kind of comic books you got, indie, Batman, whatever. Leave them in the comments. I will be sure to read them, review them, and I will see you in the next video. See ya!